right. I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another Monday morning tech chat show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I am Juan Carlos Bagnell, the Some Gadget Guy, the SGG of this poorly named podcast. And the QA stands for question and answer because I like to have an interactive chat as we go through the top news stories of last week. Spend a little time, sort of sort out our feelings, what's going on in news, in tech and politics, then come back and try and have a nice long-form, chill conversation. It's about the things we care about. You know, we're all passionate about this stuff, so we want to make sure we're getting this stuff right. I'm already seeing a crazy chat lining up. I just have to warn you folks, I've been seeing some funky network activity as my streaming stats have just been wildly swinging all over the place. So hopefully we can make it through this podcast with a minimum of crashing and stream failing. So we'll go from there. I want to kick it right off. Again, I'm seeing a ton of folks here. Zuriel Vanch, Yogesh, Gary, Tana, Ronald, Chad, C. Butler, LFA's in the house. LFA, congratulations on 2 years. Everyone give LFA a shout out because he just put out a video talking about his experiences in shooting content on YouTube for his 2-year anniversary, I believe. We got Viper dropping fire. We've got James. We've got Just Wallace. Rory. The Nitpicker showed up. And look, it's Napoleon Dynamite. Apparently taking a break from feeding his llama. So, we've got a lot to jump into. First piece of housekeeping. From our conversations last week, I need to make sure that everyone is sort of aware of what's happening. That the main live stream for this podcast will be migrating to Twitch in June. So after I get back from, it looks like I am going to be going to Computex, and after I get back from Computex, that the live stream will be hosted on Twitch, and then the podcast will be uploaded to YouTube after the fact. So if you want to participate in the live chat, if you want to see what's going on during the show, the main broadcast is going to be Twitch, and then I'm also going to be co-streaming to Mixer and Periscope. I think even Facebook now allows for free streams, so I'll be hooking all that up, and then YouTube will be sort of where the podcast lives after the fact. Just want to make sure everybody knows so that it's not a surprise when we get to June, and then all of a sudden a Monday morning shows up, and then YouTube goes quiet. So that's what's going on. That's the haps. Ronald Sims, my Twitch is ready, and you can have my axe. Yes, lots and lots of housekeeping. Last week was a really busy week. I kind of got rocked last week. Oh, the Nitpicker. Oh, wow, you're going to Computex. Cool. I'm super excited. This will be my first Computex. So I really don't even know what that means. You know, like you get used to a CES, you get used to MWC. I know what to expect from an IFA. I'll have to see. I have to see how Computex goes, but we're going with a small team. Me, a producer, a writer, and an editor are going to go hit it up for Newegg. So we're all pretty stoked about that. This will be a new experience for me. And the Nitpicker might be going to Computex also. So if you make it out there, let me know, and we can tag team some stuff. I think that'd be really fun. From Patton Cavaney. I liked your vid about MKBHD. I don't think I did any videos about MKBHD. I'm pretty sure I only did videos sort of in a vacuum talking about the LG G8. From Kamsa99, what happened with Pocket now? Kamsa, that was a while ago. So you'll pardon, I'm probably gonna skip that as a question just for right now because we've got a ton of stuff from last week that I need to get out of the way just for housekeeping. Like I said, last week was a very very busy week. So I kind of want to really quickly, really loosely. I always say, hey, I want to cover this really fast, and then I ended up talking about it for way longer than I intend to. So I was all over the place. I produced a segment down at Fox LA, so I was at the Fox studios. But the biggies, my mom got to work on a video with us at Newegg. And so for Mother's Day, the Newegg Ninjas put together this really great video looking, talking to Trisha about what it means to be a modern mom. And then we flew in my mom to talk about her experiences growing up. She's a computer scientist. And so, I got to share some of my early life experiences because I didn't realize how unique we were. How unique we were in terms of having technology really, really early. I mean, I was 4 years old when I started using DOS. And of course, my mom shows up to set with a Paper Street soap shirt. So she totally earned some cred with the Newegg team. But you can catch this video. I just thought they did an amazing job of sharing some of her experiences and being sort of a mother before this tech explosion that we all have in the consumer lifestyle. And then juxtaposing that with Trisha talking about raising Logan. So it was just, it was phenomenal. And I hope that we'll still have the longer form because we did a full Tetris showdown between me and my mom. I really wish I could go back in time and tell my child self that that you're playing this game with your mom and that's kind of special. And that Tetris is going to be a game that you two share for 30 years. You're still going to be playing this game against each other 30 years later. I didn't realize how unique our family was. When you grow up with this kind of stuff, you just take it for granted that everyone else is kind of sharing similar life experiences, and we were proper ahead of the curve on the personal computer revolution. Aditya Anil, oh yeah, I saw the Newegg video featuring Mama Bagnell. She is super cool. I can see how you got into the tech space. #respect. Oh, and we've got Vladimir 419 and Binsu 1 checking in on Mixer. So thanks for tuning in, guys, gals, whoever you might be. And we've got a super chat, Tech Time, kicking in. Just a little support for production on the show. Thank you so much. As I was making a joke with TK last week that it's really funny that for all the people that we get that might come in and try and troll, I mean, LFA is in the live chat and he's been upgraded to moderator and he's pretty brutal, so don't mess around. But just kind of funny, with so many people being nice to me, that disrupted the show way more than all the times I've had to deal with trolls. And Claudia Dunn on Facebook, one of my voiceover buddies. Claudia, thank you so much for dropping by. All right. So, short story long. Mother's Day video at Newegg came out super great. And I'm going to try and put together a standalone podcast. My mom had these great moments and things to share about working in STEM, being a woman in the tech industry in the late 80s. I mean, I just thought it was a great conversation. So I'm going to try and cut together a long form, maybe 30 minutes or so. And that'll also be put up on the podcast channel, so you can check that out too. Yes. So moving on. I also did a couple of podcast appearances. I like the folks at Tech Down Over. Sorry, I'm trying to get my Facebook page up here because they stream on Facebook and then also migrate to YouTube. So the Tech Down Over guys, Tech Down Over show number 242, Some Gadget Guy, Juan Carlos Bagnell. The thing I love is they always sort of I've done the show twice now, and they've reached out both times. They're like, "Hey, so what do you want to talk about?" And you're like, "I don't know. I can talk about anything." And so because we didn't really have any plans, I jumped into the show, and they started asking me questions about headphones or sort of hearing health. And it was hilarious that we ended up spending a quarter of their podcast talking about how gross ears are and what earwax does. And so I felt bad for kind of tanking their production podcast. They talk a lot about, recording and producing and multimedia. And so here I am on their show talking about earwax. So that was a good look for me. And then literally the next day, I got to do an appearance on the Android Authority podcast, which was a lot of fun. So this was with my buddy Adam Dowd. We've been compatriots since our days at Pocket now, and then Joe Hindi. So it was the three of us talking about some brands that maybe that maybe need a little more love or need a little bit more help. So LG, Motorola, having some announcements out there, leaks on the Z4. And then Joe was genuinely curious about my experiences using the LG G8. But of course, I couldn't just make it a conversation about the phone. It was it kind of expanded into a long form discussion talking about the reviewer industry, because I'm kind of primed to soapbox about some political stuff. So, there was a sort of a conversation about how some brands are automatically picked to be winners or losers by a YouTube popularity algorithm. And it's a shame, because I think that unduly influences a sort of a consumer conversation when confidence in techies online is sort of at an all-time low. And it's these types of things that kind of game the discussion in a way that I think does us a disservice as a tech fan community, let alone from just people who are interested in these products or need purchasing recommendations. We feel compromised when this is how we play the YouTube popularity game, which is a bummer. Viper, one stays busy. I felt so bad. So Viper invited me to his Friday show, and I wanted to do it so bad, but I had done a TV appearance and like 4 podcasts that week. I had to postpone the book club. My voice was shot. I don't even know if it'll make it through this show. I've got water consumed from the tastiest pickle flavored coffee mugs that you can that you can purchase. I mean, wherever you might be able to purchase a mega pickle mug. But yeah, first of all, I just really enjoy chatting with Adam. I mean, we've been talking for years now, mostly behind the scenes from our experiences at Pocket Now. But getting to have sort of a structured podcast conversation with Adam and with Joe. That was a really cool appearance. I had a lot of fun with that podcast, and the apologies, like they let me soapbox a little. It wasn't that was really where the show was supposed to go, but I kind of had a bug up my butt about, well, let me tell you kids about YouTube and algorithms. Gary Fleischer, the video is a little choppy. That's an understatement, man. This video looks like it's really choppy. I don't know what's going on with my upload speeds, but there's something happening with my connection here. So expect some dropouts, and hopefully the whole thing doesn't just crash. Aditya Anil, can we get a podcast with Mama Bagnell? She shared some really unique viewpoints in the video. I'd like to hear her thoughts on the more modern trends, planned obsolescence, super powerful phones, etc. So she's gonna come. My mom and dad are gonna come visit for. They're gonna come visit for Father's Day, and my dad recently replaced his lost Pixel 2, so he's doing okay for her phone. But my mom is still on her Galaxy S5. So it's silly, but for Father's Day, I might look at trying to replace my mom's phone. But while she's out here, I do want to try and maybe have like a sit down. I think it would be fun to have a chat and make that like maybe a semi-regular, like once a quarter, my mom shows up as a podcast and then we can have a conversation. It's like, hey, she'll work for free. From James P. Are you being funny? Earwax is gross, but if you use IEMs, it's an issue that should be addressed. I am being funny, and it was an issue that we addressed in the Tech Down Over podcast. I kind of feel you could do both. Like it's a serious concern. I have psoriasis, so my scar tissue goes into my ear canals when I have bad flare-ups. So if you thought earwax was gross, mix that with earwax and skin scarring, and oh boy, do IEMs get funky when you have to work with that. Let's see. And LFA, the Galaxy S5 was my favorite Galaxy. You know what? We don't know we're using an end of the era phone until that era is over. And for Samsung, being able to replace your own battery, it was the era of the Galaxy S5 and the Note 4. And it's a bummer. And I kind of feel like Samsung has taken baby steps away from me with every subsequent Galaxy release. Minus the actives. I loved the actives, but then they shut those down too. So they don't really make phones for me anymore, and that's a bummer. From the Nitpicker, have you experienced any monetization issues on YouTube? I've not gotten a single cent for my last 6 videos. So my last 3 videos have all been demonetized, and I've had to go through the process of remonetizing them, which is also why I do these delayed video releases. A video will go up on Patreon, and then it can sometimes take 2 to 3 days. One time it took 4 days, and I'm sitting on a headphone review that's at a week now, just to make sure that everything's looking good on YouTube. So patrons get that early access in part because YouTube plays so many games with, like, I did a video on the OnePlus 6. All I did was look back at the OnePlus 6. OnePlus 6 a year later, and I just lightly touched on what I thought had been improved and what I liked about the 6 versus the 6T, and then just some of my thoughts on what we might get for the OnePlus 7. And as soon as that video was uploaded, instantly demonetized. You're like, why? What possible trigger could there have been to demonetize a OnePlus 6 checkup? I don't get it, and I'm tired of playing it, and I'm not going to sit here and play the YouTube algorithm game. So increasingly, the communities that are out supporting and stuff, that's where I'm focusing a lot of this discussion. And that's in part leading to why I want to move the live stream of the podcast over to Twitch. Oh, from Tana Does Tech. I loved my S5, bro. Oh, and Tana with the super chat. Salute, bro. Love your work, dude. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I feel honored to get the yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. I feel good. That was an excellent hashtag for me to see in this live stream. So, yes. Tech Down Over, Android Authority podcast, Mother's Day video. I almost spaced. Okay. This is the last bit of housekeeping. These things are so much work. It's like a little mini celebration every time I get one out. But I have been able to update the list of camera reviews on somegadgetguy.com because I finally finished the Nokia 9 PureView camera review. It's 26 minutes long. 26-minute 4K video took a while to go through photo samples and to kind of write my script around what I felt was important to talk about on the phone. And I'm debating whether or not I want to put out the camera conclusion. Some people seem to like the conclusions. A lot of people just flip out and like can't handle that I'm putting out like a 4-minute video, which is just as long as most other full reviewers' camera sections in their phone reviews. But you know, this one's kind of unique. I just don't want to piss off a bunch of Nokia fans when they see that like there's 20 more minutes of analysis. Just the conclusion is just a part of what's there. To spoil part of the conclusion, I love shooting on the phone. It's the most fun I've had shooting in auto mode. I mean, since I've been doing these camera deep dives, there are some obvious, some noticeable gremlins that I think HMD will struggle to fix, but this is still going to be a benchmark phone for me. I need to see that HMD can properly support this phone, update it, and not just give us, operating system updates or security patches. Like, they need to show that they can refine the product that they promised us, that they can improve this performance over time. And some things got better after this most recent patch, but there are still some glaring oversights and some funky bugs. Like manual focus is a funky bug for a phone that has a pure view label on it. But a lot of that kind of fades into the background when you really spend some time, when you really live with it and you're using it as your mission critical immediate camera solution. How nice it is to have a sort of a conservative but light focused HDR effect with depth mapping on every single photo that you take, and that the capturing of the photos has almost zero lag. that, there's like a minute processing lag in between shots, but it's not like a Lumia 1020 where you take your photo and you hope you got it because it might be 3 seconds before that camera recycles. I very much enjoy shooting on this phone, and I think it's a bummer that just because you can see some of the seams in how the phone is processing the photo, like the phone tells you it's working on something. It's not like it's unresponsive, but because it's doing that, it seems to be getting a bit more of a critical response than phones that more effortlessly shoot content and don't show the user how much work is involved in capturing and processing that information. So, 26-minute video, lots of photos. I even pulled more depth maps so you can see sort of the comparison between what the JPEG looks like and what the background depth information looks like. And then some very tragic video samples. That's not the phone's strong suit. But for those of you out there who want a unique stills shooting experience, on Patreon, Nokia 9 Peer View Camera Review. It's on the Patreon. You can also click to the link of it on somegadgetguy.com. If you go to the right-hand side, there's a little banner with all of my camera reviews linked back to my camera samples from 2012. So if you really want to see how like an LG G3 photo samples and video samples compare to a modern-day flagship, you can put them side by side in your browser because I've been using many of the same landmarks in Southern California since 2013. 6 years of consistent camera reviews. It's pretty great. And that does it for housekeeping. So, all of these links will be on somegadgetguy.com once the show is wrapped and I finish the audio version of the podcast. But last week was a busy week. And yeah, housekeeping took me 20 minutes, and I did not expect it to take me 20 minutes. So there we go. Let's jump into some news. Let me cue this back up here. I'm going to kill a few of these windows just because I have so much going on, and my PC is already acting a little wiggy. And every time I pull up one of these links, it's probably going to take a little bit of a dip on this live stream. I really need to get after. Because at this point, I think this is a connection issue. That maybe there's like something up with my modem, or because I even did a power cycle on the modem before we went live. All right. Speaking of broadband issues, what a perfect segue. Our first story, turns out the FCC drastically overstated U.S. broadband deployment after all. This is by way of PC Gamer, written up by Paul Lilly. From the article, remember in February when the Federal Communications Commission essentially said that broadband deployment in the U.S. is going great despite 20 million homes lacking access to high-speed connections, and then a month later, Microsoft basically called BS. Well, the FCC has finally admitted the report drastically overstated actual broadband deployment, but still insists that everything is just fine. Hey, look at that. I have zero confidence in anything reported by this FCC right now. They've been negligent in responding to Freedom of Information Act reports. They have consistently clouded the waters on the difference between net neutrality policy and community broadband or competition policies that don't really have anything to do with each other. And then also just I very much I'm very frustrated by this FCC and the Republicans in general continuing to conflate the internet, the difference between an information service and a telecommunications service, because they're not the same thing, but they're trying to say that the internet is basically the same thing as Facebook on the internet. And that's incorrect. That they should not be regulated the same way. But from this article, and I'll have the link on the show notes. This is from PCGamer.com. I'm going to scroll down here. So here's what's frustrating. In the United States, to be called broadband, all you need to offer is 25 megabits down and 3 megabits up. We are so far behind the tech curve of other competing first world nations. Especially smaller countries that have a more unified approach to the regulation of their tech space. 25 meg down, 3 meg up is all you need to be declared broadband. And not that the consumer has to get that. They just have to have access to it. And then they are a broadband accessible household. And then they get to be counted in the numbers of people who have access to 25 down 3 meg. They have access to broadband. So from this article, from the end of 2016, 26 million people still did not have access to 25 meg down. And the FCC fudged the numbers, saying that at the end of 2017, that had been reduced to 19 million people. That's still tragic. That 19 million households, 19 million, or is it households or is it people? They say number of Americans. I don't know if that means households or if that means people. Let's say people. And 19 million people, that number had decreased. So 7 million people got access to 25 meg down. Well, that wasn't accurate. It wasn't. It got better. It did, but it's really 21. So they were off by 2 million people just in terms of broadband coverage maps. It's not even like you have to take a census on that. You look at the map, and they were off by 2 million people. So the FCC is correct. It did technically get better, but this is a fundamental problem of a service which is largely built on public funds and public infrastructure being managed by corporations that get to profit off of that public investment, because they're basically letting a huge swath of rural America. They're basically allowing them to disappear from the modern tech conversation. They will never be competitive in a worldwide or a global landscape. They will never have access to first-rate educational or medical services. And we're sitting here and patting ourselves on the back that, 4 million more people get access to broadband, but at exorbitant prices for terrible DSL grade connection speeds. And they still can't compete on the global stage. And we actively prevent corporations from competing in those spaces so that situation can get better. For when corporations refuse to compete in those spaces, we prevent municipalities from building their own broadband to make their citizens more competitive. And then we sit here and we try and talk about some sort of free market or fair market policy for protecting the rights of our citizenry and allowing them to step into the 21st century. I feel it's important to bring up again that both lobbying arms of the telecommunications industry, the two main lobbyist groups that manage, smaller ISPs and larger ISPs, all say that broadband should be funded like a public utility so long as they get to keep all the profits. So they're not going to invest in really improving broadband infrastructure because they want more public money to go towards improving infrastructure so that they can keep their profits high. This is if you are a conservative and you do care about a true free market, I feel you should be very against policy which sort of blackmails the American people into paying more tax dollars into improving our infrastructure just so that those corporations can profit and just so that those corporations can minimize the amount of competition they face. That to me is a bummer. All right. James P., your broadband is like American cars. Engineering is rubbish. It should be better. We've been pouring money into it. All those fees that are tacked on go towards network improvements. And I can't even keep a podcast streaming in Southern California. Oh, wait, let's see. Oh, man. Okay, so that the stream almost proper crashed right there as I was criticizing broadband deployment. It's going to be all over the place, folks. This is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. I love it. Yeah, so this isn't even like a situation with one specific stream source. This is going to be catastrophic across the board. Okay. Moving right along. That's my let's make fun of the FCC story for the week. It's just bad all around, and it's very frustrating that we're continuing to pretend that there's any significant any legitimate, I should say, any legitimate counter argument to improving these situations for the citizenry. Well, as from Charles, I'm not sure what's wrong. You keep freezing, but I keep hearing your voice. Can someone in the live chat just auto reply for me that the network connection that I'm on is garbage and that we're going to be facing this throughout the whole podcast, so that when people kind of check in, I don't have to stop the podcast in between every story to say, oh, by the way, Spectrum sucks. Let's move on to just a quick story here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, which is probably a lie, and I'll probably spend a lot of time on this. This is coming by way of Bloomberg. Who should you sue when a robot loses your fortune? The first known case of humans going to court over investment losses triggered by autonomous machines will test the limits of liability. This is written up by Thomas Beardsworth. From the article, robots are getting more humanoid every day, but they still can't be sued. So a Hong Kong tycoon is doing the next best thing. He's going after the salesman who persuaded him to entrust a chunk of his fortune to the supercomputer whose trades cost him more than $20 million. Egads. Oh, baby. 20 mil. So according to this article, and like I said, I'm not going to dig too much deeper into this, this algorithm opted for a trade, bet against a certain margin, lost that margin, tried to recoup, which put the stock 20 mil under, and then the stock rebounded almost immediately. So that's bad algorithm, that's bad coding, that reply or that response to a very sudden market tweak or market concern. But this is a tough story to sort of build up any real sympathy. I feel it's indicative of the conversations we're going to be having across the AI sphere. We're going to be leaning on machine learning software for numerous services. I mean, just imagine once this stuff starts getting into the medical community. If an AI makes a false diagnosis or an incorrect diagnosis, I shouldn't say false. Self-driving cars, we have those philosophy debates, like who should a self-driving car protect? If there's a pedestrian on the street, should the car try to protect the people in the car? Should the car drive itself into a barrier and potentially harm the people in the car to protect the pedestrian? We are going to be facing some significant moralistic situations that we're really going to be struggling with some of these concepts. So this one, unfortunately, just doesn't really do it for me when it comes to, I feel bad for this uber wealthy person that has lost a chunk of their cash. So am I even still on? I'm seeing like 0%. Sorry, like for a significant period of time there, my feed just went to 0, and it just went to 0 again. Let's see, is it going to crash? And there's like literally no way for me to adjust this midstream. Kind of recovering, and crashing again. Oh, baby. This is so frustrating. I've had so many calls with Spectrum about trying to fix this, and like, what did you do? Try rebooting your router? If I could give anyone else my money for any type of upload speed, in a heartbeat, I would leave. This is This is ridiculous. And I hate it so much. Okay. Maybe some minor recovery there. Let's just finish talking about the news here. But yes. So the reason why I'm being a little bit glib and why I'm commenting on this in a way where, oh, I don't care about rich people. Stocks are a risk. And I feel like people that are leaning on algorithms think that they have some magic protection against a bad trade. And that's not true for anyone. You know, if you're a day trader and you're making your own human judgment calls on what stocks you want to invest in, you're taking a risk. And if you're dumping significant amounts of money into an algorithm or a piece of software to make those decisions for you, you're taking a risk. And I don't feel like this is a good case to hinge liability on. You took a risk. And so you have to deal with the margin call. You have to deal with, the volatility of the stock market. You paid into this system to play this game. You play dumb games, you win dumb prizes. So I feel like this case hopefully won't be a significant precedent for other more important issues like medical, health, automotive liability. That's going to be a true test of our legal system moving up. I kind of hope this gets shut down relatively quickly. Let's see. From Paco, I guess the ISP is already a winner with a hefty price tag. Charles, we're going to make it through this somehow. And J-Rod's frickin' Spectrum, same issue here, only one broadband provider. Yep, it's not fun. Let me tell you, living life with no competition is zero fun, especially in a market as large as mine in the Valley. So, one of the things that might help, I'm just going to start killing stories as I wrap them up. My computer is plenty capable of having dozens of let's get that out of the way there. James P., are you being shadow banned? I don't think this is with any of the individual services because I use Restream and my connection to Restream shows pretty quick. And then Restream puts out the feed to Mixer, Facebook, and Periscope and Twitch. So I don't think it's like a ban of any kind. I really do think that this is just connection issues with Spectrum. So if you have the opportunity to not do business with Spectrum because they throttle like crazy, they throttle gamers, and it looks like I might be experiencing some of that right now. My speed tests are wicked fast, but any kind of sustained upload, and man, I get hit. So, from Gary Fleischner, I worked on Wall Street for over 10 years. All trading algorithms have flaws, except for Goldman Sachs. Theirs all make cash. Interesting. Almost like they have some kind of like inside scoop. I'm not making any accusations. Okay, we've got a trio of stories that are very frustrating. I've brought this up in previous podcasts. It's a major issue facing just consumerism in general. Is that increasingly whatever product we buy is glued shut or is phenomenally difficult to service, and it's leading to a waste disposal, faster cycling of electronics and of gadgets in general. I mean, even kitchen tech doesn't feel as robustly built as when my folks invested in mixers and blenders and stuff. LFA with the super chat, $5 towards Juan getting his own communication satellite. Who's with me? $5 down, $20 billion to go. Tech Leathercraft right after him. Amal with another super chat, just kicking it in. You guys are hilarious. Thank you for supporting production on my limping podcast. Let me click through all three of these stories in screen share. And you'll see just how poor my connection is while I do it. But the right to repair movement has faced some bad beats, a pair of bad beats. This is coming by way of Motherboard. This is Right to Repair bill killed after big tech lobbying in Ontario, written up by Jordan Pearson. Right to Repair bill that would have forced manufacturers selling electronic devices and other consumer products in Ontario to provide consumers and small businesses with the tools and knowledge to repair brand name gadgets is officially dead. That was a terrible run-on sentence. But this was following major lobbying by Apple. Funnily enough, a similar bill in California, load the page, there we go. This is coming from Apple Insider, written up by Mikey Campbell. California tables a right to repair bill following pressure from Apple and others. Again, last-minute pressure from lobbyists and a last-minute play by Apple to make a consumer safety argument that if we allowed consumers to easily maintenance their own phones, well, then they could hurt themselves because electronics are dangerous. So this was Assembly Bill 1163 was tabled. So now it's not going to go up for an official vote in the California Assembly, which is super frustrating. And just as I felt like, okay, well, this is getting some news, this is getting some attention, and politicians are paying attention to it, Bernie Sanders calls for a national right to repair law. Exciting? Oh, but for farmers. So, Bernie Sanders, I like Bernie Sanders. But I feel like this should be like a bill for everybody, not just farmers. Farmers face one of the worst conclusions, one of the worst outcomes of a lack of consumer protections, where you get a John tractor and you can't touch anything on it. There's tons of these little computer modules that need specific software from authorized dealers that might exist hundreds of miles away from a farm. You can't swap out like an alternator. I used to just pop the hood on my car and pop out a couple belts and swap in a couple components and my car would run again. Oh, no. And unless you have an authorized retailer go in and swap all that stuff for you, then your tractor is basically a giant lump of machinery. From Gary Fleischer with the super chat. I'm with LFA, SpaceX Satellite, and Raul Silva backing him right up with some more super chats. You guys rock. Thank you so much. Maybe instead of a satellite, I can convince Google Fiber to just dig a trench all the way up to my condo and light up fiber just directly to me. That would be nice. I would love to have faster than 20 meg upload speeds. This is ridiculous. James P. in the super chat jumping into. So the farmer situation is absolutely dire. We desperately need to affect change because they are sort of the tip of the spear. They are those that are most directly affected from a general consumer standpoint with this leverage of the DMCA. You're not allowed to crack into this stuff. There's a black market of, I believe Serbian software hackers that are coding custom firmwares for tractors. So while I appreciate that this is the canary in the coal mine, this is an early warning, an early danger sign for what's going to happen to many other types of consumer electronics. Focusing just on farmers negates what all of us go through for the servicing, the maintenance, and the upkeep of all of our consumer products, laptops, tablets, smartphones. Just the difficulty that someone can have replacing a battery, and how this is going to increase. You crack your display, and your display has an in-display fingerprint sensor and a hole punch for the camera and all these other fancy new technologies. It means that something that used to cost around $200 to swap out is now going to be the cost of buying another phone, which increasingly means, well, why would you get this fixed when there could be other damage or scuffs or it's just ugly or the back got cracked too when you could just buy a new phone? It's going to be $600 to replace the display. Well, only another $300 gets you a whole new phone. You might as well just get the whole thing swapped. And it's a sad state of affairs watching that idea take root in the mobile tech space, where this flavor of consumerism is one where it's increasingly more likely that we're going to be pushing people to flip their phones more aggressively, to dispose of their phones. A lot of people probably not disposing of consumer electronics in a safe way. 2 weeks ago, drove our car up. There's a toxic substance depot in the valley, and it's a little bit of a drive for us. It's not far away, but we drove up, and I had an old TV that was busted, and my wife had some medical equipment that needs to be safely discarded. And you roll up, you keep it in your trunk, you pop your trunk. People in like hazmat suits come and take everything out of the trunk so that they can properly dispose of it. And that's what your tax dollars go towards. You buy a TV, there's an extra tax slapped on it for the safe recycling and the safe disposal of this stuff. But unfortunately, and as I've showed some pictures on Twitter, you walk down the street and you'll just see people dump like TVs and I saw a refrigerator just lumped off the side of the street. So that's tough. Sorry, that was a really long-winded way of circling back to this idea, though, where there's nothing stopping the modern smartphone from being a 4-year gadget. I keep picking up phones with Qualcomm 660s, Qualcomm 820s, and they are perfectly powerful enough to manage daily smartphone use. And the thing that holds them back is in that time period, most of those phones were glued shut, so you couldn't do things like replace the battery, maintenance other components on the phone very easily, and that they've all been declared end of life for software support. I don't know that we can fix the software support issue, getting companies to deliver more Microsoft timeframes for supporting their products, but we should be able to say, if I want to crack this open, I purchased this phone and I want to replace the battery, I should be allowed to do so. And we should push back against companies that make that more difficult. The last iFixit teardown. I know Samsung is playing their battery tech very conservatively after the Note 7, but that doesn't mean they should glue the battery into the frame of the phone, making it much more likely that if you want to swap the battery on a Galaxy S9 or a Galaxy S10, that you'll damage other components on the frame. I don't think that's a good way of doing business. And I think we should be looking at ways that you can seal the phone up, but then also make it easier for someone to get in there if they decide that they want to crack open the thing that they purchased. I think they should be allowed to own their products. I don't believe that products should be allowed to own you. Christopher Schmaassen, one small step, man. Juan's giant leap for broadband. Another super chat. Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate it. Man, I'm going to be on the phone after this podcast again to say, hey, WTF, how do we fix this? But maybe what I should try and do is also maybe go through some sort of like VPN and see if they are throttling my upload streams. Because you know what it might be is like they might think that I'm like file sharing or something. I download so much large content, especially now I've been doing some production work with Newegg, that then also having like these 2-hour, high bit rate streams might be working against me. Let's see, what else do we have here? We've got a couple comments. I want to scroll back because we're going to take a little bit of a break to talk about glowing rectangles here in just a sec. Let's see, from Tech Leathercraft, it's like in many new cars. I can't even do an oil change yourself nowadays. I used to love crawling out of my car and doing brake jobs. I don't know, like there was something really cathartic about, every year crawling under my old beat up Toyota Corolla and popping the wheels off and just spending a Saturday cleaning that stuff out, getting new brake pads in there, taking the rotors to be turned. I liked that. I liked doing that. And now if I were to try to do the same on my newer Nissan, there's nothing super fancy about that, but the way that they've cabled up the ABS system, I'd never want to crawl under that car. Like I'm pretty confident I would make a dumb mistake and then there go the brakes on my car. So it's again, there are some things that this technology brings a perk, but I feel it's being implemented specifically, directly in ways that keep the consumer out of the experience. Mr. Carroll Ware, one man's junk is another man's treasure. My roommate got a free PlayStation 4 because someone sat it outside. Works fine. How much would that suck if someone was just like, oh, I got to go get my other suitcases and stuff. Let me just put my PlayStation 4 down here, and then when we pull the car around, I'll get all my stuff in. Yoink! I'm probably sure that wasn't what happened, but it's just funny. Mauricio Gutierrez, broadband in the States needs to upgrade all the backhaul through the country. When it's done, it will be one of the best, biggest and fastest networks. If the deadlines aren't met, it will accomplish nothing. Again, that's very wishful thinking, because we've got the core interconnect system in the United States is actually quite nice. It's just that we refuse to upgrade the connections from the node to the home. And that's where we were supposed to start digging trenches for fiber. So we would have fiber to the home. And that's what we were promised. And that's what we've dumped billions of dollars into. And all of that money basically just evaporated and went into the pockets of rich people. So we might need to start knocking on some rich person doors. Glorious LDR 92. Right to repair is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, you'll have legit parts and resources, schematics, and instructions for everyone. On the other hand, it can lead to government oversight of yet another aspect of our lives when it can be done within the market itself. But it can't be. That's exactly what we're pointing to right here, is the free market without regulation automatically leads to monopolization of a service or a resource every single time. We're moving from 4 cell phone carriers to 3. Most areas of the country have zero competition for broadband, and when they do, it's fake. In my area, my competition for spectrum is 20 megabit DSL. 20 megabit down, 5 megabit up. For the same price! Competitive! So, mandating that corporations make it legal for people to open up their own products is the top of a hill of a slippery slope that I don't think really exists. We can play the FUD game, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt game of where might this lead? But right now, we're facing actual harms. So if we're in a situation where the citizenry of the United States are facing the actual harms of being locked out of their gadgets versus the potential harms of what might happen to businesses years from now if right to repair legislation leads us down a slippery slope that we can't articulate, like we don't know what those harms might look like other than government bad, I feel like we should be doing our due diligence. We should be working towards alleviating the actual harms that really do exist. And then once we cross that bridge of some kind of government overreach, then we address those concerns. We don't sit here and say, well, this system's totally broken, but we can't do anything. Can't do anything because there might be another problem. Another problem might pop up. So we can't do anything to fix the problems that are actually here now. So that's why I get frustrated, is we could be working towards fixing these real problems, and if there will be unforeseen consequences of any type of legislation, but you don't stop trying because there might be a potential harm later on down the road. You try and you do your best, and then you adjust as time goes on. Let's see. Doomer231, there are low-end smartphones coming out with 660s, so nowadays there's barely any smartphone that can't handle simple daily tasks and should be able to handle those tasks for years to come. Let's see. There are lots of replies here. James P. I still have my iPhone SE and will have it until the zombie apocalypse. Yeah, again, I pulled out my my 10S because I'm going to be doing a review on a lav mic with a lightning connector. And just as I'm using it, I'm using this 10S. It's a nice phone. It's neat. Every time I pick it up, it's like, man, I'd rather be using my iPhone SE. I might shoot the review. I might shoot the review with the 10S, but shoot all of the content of using the mic with my iPhone SE. Marvin C. with a super chat. Thanks, Juan. Always bringing great conversation. This anti-right to repair is straight from the devil, and not in a fun glam rock kind of way, like in a legit, oh boy, this is a bummer kind of a way. Mr. Carroll, where I think they sealed batteries in phones because they get kickbacks from phone battery case manufacturers. Maybe, but I seriously doubt that Mophie has the cash to redirect the smartphone industry. I feel like the money they might have gotten from a couple battery case manufacturers likely pales in comparison to the number of people that buy new phones sooner than they should have to, because the battery life is crappy. I'm still mad that Samsung hasn't properly been investigated for battery throttling. They got tagged in Italy. Italy said, hey, we see evidence that you have intentionally slowed down devices. And suddenly, around the Galaxy S8 to the S9, wouldn't you know it, Samsung performance improved long term. Isn't that weird? Where like on the S7, as the phone got older, it would just run like garbage. My S7 is like almost unusable. It's so slow. Not like my LG G6. Similar hardware, G6, running great. S7, like this, I can't use this. And that's just interesting, don't you think? I think that's one of the most reprehensible things that any company has done, when Apple purposely started slowing down their devices right around the time that consumers would be looking to shop new ones. Oh, and Tech Rant just jumped in. Hey, Tech Rant. Fair warning, the stream's running like crap. So with Tech Rant jumping in, now's the perfect time to take a break. I was going to just like get up and walk away, but this camera isn't set to autofocus, so I'd have to reset everything, and that'd be a pain. I do want to take a second. As I like to do at around the halfway point for every podcast that we do, there's a little initiative that I hope those of you watching can help support, can help spread the word on, can share with your family and friends. I've been talking a lot about some of the recent changes for content creators that I think have been problematic, especially in the YouTube space, but generally around the internet in a number of different streaming services. So much of this being built up on popularity metrics, sort of self-reinforcing echo chambers. And it makes the discovery and the diversification of new voices in this space very difficult. I get very excited seeing a new player in this tech space pop up, someone whose channel is just starting out. They've got that fresh sight. They've got that fresh voice. They're trying to do something new. And increasingly, it's more difficult for someone like that to break through, which makes it very discouraging. It makes that climb to monetization more difficult. I feel more people should be getting compensated for their work and compensated more fairly. And I've been trying to put my money where my mouth is, figuratively and literally, by also setting up with my own time and with my own resources, any access to communities where we can share content from people that we think deserve more attention. So one of the ways that I've done this is setting up a little subreddit, which is growing. It's growing nicely. We got a number of new subscribers over this last week. I think we went from like 312 to 325 over the course of a couple days, which that's pretty fast for a tiny little subreddit on Reddit. But the Reddit is r-glowing rectangles. So reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles, all one word, spelled exactly how you think it should be. And this is just a resource. If you want to share your own content, if you think there's a YouTuber out there who deserves more attention, you can share their content there. And I've got a number of producers that I'm sharing on a very regular basis. And not just like, oh, this person only has 100 subs, but like there are some producers out there that I just feel deserve more attention. Tech Thing, Patrick Norton, an amazing voice, like OG tech dude, and maybe one of his broadcasts, a gorgeously well-produced show that streams on YouTube, and just old school television broadcasting, great set. But Tech Thing might only get like 20,000 views. More people should be watching Tech Thing, right? And so even though he's a known name, he's sort of famous in the tech industry, and he's like hardcore DIY, or just like this man has forgotten more about tech than most of us will ever know. But 20,000 views, like he deserves better than that. So rambling on, I just want to go briefly over some of the top stories on our glowing rectangles, people that have been submitting stories. And then I just need to get into the week view. Although now it's not going to let me, is it? Past 24 hours. Come on, internet. You can do it. All right, it's messing. Oh, okay, here it goes. Okay, so these are the top videos posted to our glowing rectangles. Oh, Bored at Work is in the live chat. What's up, Bored at Work? Let me click in here. Okay, so there were a couple others. I don't know. You want to see things about LG G8s. But the top story posted, Samsung Galaxy A20 full review from Gadget Byte. Great mid-ranger phone. I've really been digging the Gadget Byte style. It's very chill. She talks directly to camera. They cut in some fun B-roll. I think they shoot it at 60 frames per second, so it's nice and sharp and really pretty look for video, but it's a very grounded conversation on phones. I just watched, before we did the live stream, they did a P30 review, and I thought it was really, really well done and kind of old school. It was I think a 16-minute video. She's just casually going through, and I was using it for this, and I liked the feel of the P30 in the hand better than the P30 Pro, and then this feature's over here, which is confusing. Why isn't it over there? And, here's some back and forth between this and a Galaxy S10, just a great casual, old school presentation with some more modern video elements kind of mixed in. Then, Tide, the Deity V-Mic D3 Pro 2019 review. I'm always going to dig channels that produce content about producing content. And so I'm a microphone snob. I love different mics and recording implements and lavs and booms and shotguns. And I again, in that closet behind me there, I have way too many microphones. So now I'm going to have to add another one to my channel too. Deity V-Mic D3 Pro 2019 review. Pretty killer. Good video. You should definitely check it out. And my moderator for this live chat, rounding out the top three. This is a great series to follow. This is LFA. Stop buying crappy, truly wireless earbuds, part 7, the Sabat E12 True Wireless Earbuds review. So it's not just that I think you should check out his review of the Sabat E12. It's that I think you should go through and check his series, because he's been regularly checking in with this sort of trend towards rushing to a truly wireless solution, even if you don't really have the tech to pull it off. And I've actually stopped. I've stopped reviewing low cost or mid cost wireless earbuds because they're mostly garbage. But following LFA, he's been finding some gems. So go check out not only his channel, but check out that series. Stop buying crappy, truly wireless earbuds. Bit of a mouthful. Good videos to watch, especially if you're looking for something. You don't want to go AirPods or, maybe the Samsung buds aren't doing it for you. There are some other options out there that you could consider. And I will be joining him, not directly, or maybe directly. Maybe we can collab on some stuff. But I think I might be getting over myself soon to start reviewing some more wireless earbuds on my own. But I've just been having so much fun with cabled audio lately that I'm kind of in deep. I've got 4 pairs of headphones that need videos out on them in a relatively short period of time. And I got some more super chats as we round out this story. Sasha Moise kicking in with the super chat. And John O'Shea, 1234 with the sunglasses. John, thank you so much. Sasha, thank you so much for supporting production on this channel. By supporting production on this channel, I hope that you all out there will also consider checking out the community over on our glowing rectangles. We're seeing more upvotes. We're seeing a few more comments sprinkled in. Again, you can lead that discussion. You can help abbreviate some of the teething pains that a new channel has to go through to find monetization, to find some audience, to find some discussion. These are people that are genuinely passionate about covering tech and often are doing it without the backing of a major channel, without sponsors, without anything like that. And I feel like that's a critical step towards diversifying the tech landscape. Obviously, I've made some cheeky videos replying to top tech YouTube reviewers. Well, one of the ways that we actually make this better for everyone is bringing more voices up. We don't let it be this top YouTube channel is the decider of winners and losers. We share more and diverse opinions so that we can get a good lay of the land. And also I like seeing more voices rising to these discussions. And emblematic. There are a number of people in the live chat right now you should be following too, like LFA and TechRant and Board at Work and the Nitpicker. I mean, we're actually in a good age. It's just the platforms we use don't always help us find these voices. We have to do a little digging on our own. So reddit.com/r/going-rectangles and Board at Work with the super chat. Come on, son. Board at Work. Are you excited for the Pixel 3a and the 3a XL? Okay. So here's the deal. I'm going to take a drink of water because I've been talking a lot. All right. That's a delicious coffee mug. It's all briny and pickly. So I am actually much more positive on the Pixel 3a than I was on the Pixel 3. Philosophically, I have a problem with the Pixel line in general. We went through the catastrophe of the Nexus, where the Nexus 6P, and was it the Nexus 5X? Was that the one with the 808? Was that the LG? Someone correct me. I'm probably wrong. Board at Work. I had to throw in that question because I am not. Board at Work has a video why he is not excited about the Pixel 3a. So actually, this is good because, again, I feel like we don't really disagree, but I feel like we're talking to different audiences about these phones. But I digress. Enabong and I have both actually been fairly cold on Pixels. And in part, when everyone got rocked by the Snapdragon 810, we saw the G Flex 2 get torched in reviews. The HTC One M9, again, terrible performance, overheating, throttling. And then the Nexus 6P just recently, I mean, just literally a couple weeks ago, they sorted the class action lawsuit about how poorly that phone performed. And you know, if you still have one, or you could demonstrate that you've suffered boot loops or throttling performance, or there was something else too. There was another problem with the 6P, and I can't remember what it is now. Regardless, that you could actually get hundreds of dollars back from Google. It's just a little too little, too late, as far as I'm concerned. When they moved from Nexus to Pixel, I don't really feel like the Pixel was a true implementation of a premium flagship grade phone, but it came with a price tag to match premium flagship performance. I really felt like the Pixel was just a prettier Nexus, and it was an opportunity to rebrand so Google could charge more. I feel like as we've gotten into the Pixel 3, we've had some highs and lows. The Pixel 2 performed much better than I expected it to in terms of sales. Obviously, the Pixel 3 is now also getting hit by the whole smartphone industry plateauing. And the Pixel 3 has faced some other issues. Pixel users have been complaining about software support, some hardware issues. Again, I don't feel Google is good enough at hardware yet. Even with the HTC team under the Google umbrella, I don't feel they're good enough at hardware yet to command the same type of pricing structure that we've come to expect from Apple, Samsung, Huawei, and then also lower tiers too, like like LG's. Like I'd take LG hardware over Pixel hardware any day of the week. I'd likely take OnePlus hardware over Pixel hardware to that same token. But again, a major factor of that is price and the focus on who you're trying to sell to. So I wasn't particularly excited about the Pixel 3. That is not a phone for me. And increasingly, I find that there were issues that would have made it a frustrating recommendation if I had said, oh, Mom, you should get a Pixel 3. You just want this, you want that. I think this phone will cover you well. It might not have. If she had faced any of these concerns, especially things like laggy camera on a phone that sold itself on its camera performance, I think that would have frustrated my mom a lot. So we're coming to the Pixel 3a, And I'm genuinely a lot more positive on Google course correcting and building a product specifically to target the $400 to $600 tier. That is, if this phone launches at $399, I am very excited about this as an offering precisely because it is not a phone for me. This is not a phone I'm excited to use as my daily driver. But here in North America, here in the United States, we face a minor crisis of supporting the mid-range. And I mean that in this $400 to $600 territory. We can bring up arguments like, well, I mean, if you want better specs, you can buy last year's flagship for around the same price. But I want to talk to consumers that there are people who want to know that this is a new product, that it is at the beginning of its life cycle of support, that it is not already almost done. At a year, you're almost done with support. Now, it's exciting when a manufacturer pumps out support past 18 months. We want to know you're at the beginning. We want to know that this is a streamlined and focused presentation of software and hardware. Google having some problems, especially in the hardware front. But in terms of Android, the company that makes Android and the hardware that they put out, there are still plenty of people that dig that Pixel-like experience, knowing that they're going to be very, very early for updates and patches. I have to believe that the camera experience will be very similar to at least a Pixel 2, which makes it one of the best auto mode shooters a consumer can pick up. And it doesn't have a notch. I'm specifically talking about the Pixel 3a. It doesn't have a notch, and it has a headphone jack. At $400, you've just made a baller argument for that consumer who walks into the carrier store, wants a great daily driver, and doesn't want to pay $40 a month for 30 months just to cover their Facebook and Instagram use. That's kind of a big deal. I know if you're a techie and you're an enthusiast, you can go pick up a Xiaomi, you can go pick up a Redmi, you can go pick up an Oppo. There are so many phones that will beat it for specs, and you can import it, and it's going to be cheaper. Even importing it, it's going to be like $300. But that doesn't help my aunt. My aunt had a Nexus 4, and she loved her Nexus 4. Around this transition when she was looking to shop a new phone, the Nexus 6P was bringing up all of these headlines about poor performance and some problems, and she didn't want to go bigger. She didn't really like the 5X, so she ended up getting an iPhone. You know, I can't blame her for that. But for what she cares about and for what she uses on the phone, something like a Pixel 3a would be epic and would be less than a third the price of her most recent iPhone. You walk in, even paying full MSRP, you get that phone for a relatively cheap price compared to what you have on offer in a carrier store. And I have to believe that if this is going through like T-Mobile, that at some point there will be a BOGO or a trade-in or something like that too. Anyone who's comparing the full MSRP of a Pixel 3a against a phone on sale or an older phone, used pricing, that's not a fair comparison. Yes, you can pick up a Galaxy S9 for around $400. That phone is a year old. Samsung software support, kind of mediocre. That's not a fair comparison, because then you want to say, well, what's the Pixel 3a going to cost used after a year? Then you've got a fair comparison. But that's not how people are really framing this debate. Oh man, but I got my G8s. I got two G8s for the price of one on a BOGO. Well, when you get two Pixel 3As for the price of one on a BOGO, you'll still have spent substantially less for two phones. So I'm critically very excited. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I want a phone that's going to be well supported by carriers, that you have some expectation that someone in a carrier store will know what to do with it, that can easily be purchased in the United States, MSRP $400 or less, and has a USA warranty. Drop me a comment. What phone has that? At the beginning of their life cycle, you can expect at least 2 years of software support. Matches at least a Snapdragon 820 or 821 powered experience, has a reasonably good auto camera, and again, USA warranty, carrier support, under $400. Someone let me know. In Twitter, someone was trying to tag me with a Moto G7. And like a Moto G7 steps you down to a Snapdragon 630. So you don't even get a 660 level of performance. I don't know that there is any phone that matches that I can recommend to my family and friends, especially the number of people that are coming at me who are really tired of spending over $1,000 on phones. So that was a really long-winded way of getting back to Bored at Work's question. Short answer, yes. Yeah, I'm actually much more positive on a mid-ranger Pixel than I am on a flagship Pixel. And I think there's a lot more potential there to help consumers find other options than, well, buy an iPhone. It's only $1,100. LeBaron Burton with a super chat. I think Google is just trying to adhere to the budget crew and go back to the best for the money conversation because that crowd is more forgiving. I completely agree. I want Google to pivot back to more of a Nexus mindset. I know people like to say, oh, the Nexus was a developer phone, but consumers bought those things. Consumers liked knowing Google was supporting the product and it was a great experience for the price. Why I still get so excited about OnePlus. A OnePlus offers an amazing experience at $550, is supported very, very well, and loses less value over time than buying a Galaxy. A OnePlus 6 outsells Galaxy S9 Pluses. It retains its value very well precisely because of what the company has focused on, and it doesn't play these price shenanigan games that carriers like to play. That's a perk. That's an easy thing to explain, and you don't have to jump through hoops to try and figure out, am I getting the best deal? Oh no, it went on sale right after I bought it. I feel like I've been robbed. Don't mess with that. And then from Paco. Oh, Paco Street, perfectly happy with the KZ ES4 for now. Thanks for the review. Have a pickle mug refill on me. Thank you for the super chat, Paco. I really appreciate it. I've been nerding out on those KZ earbuds. And like, again, if you want great performance for like $20, those things are killer. They're real funky. They're not accurate, but I like them a lot. All right, let me look through these. Let's see. So I'm trying to see like if anyone replied. Someone so Butter Work said OnePlus, but OnePlus doesn't start at under $400. A OnePlus 5.5T isn't at the beginning of its life cycle, so we might expect another 2 years of software support for a 5T. We did great with the 3T. The 3T looks like it's going to get Pi, but that's not a phone at the beginning of its support life cycle. Pocophone, but it's not in the U.S., so Pocophone doesn't have a U.S. warranty. Let's see. Ronald Sims, I loved the Nexus. Long live Nexus 5. Nexus 4 and Nexus 5 were such great phones. Waris Amir, I wouldn't mind if they brought back the Nexus brand. I don't think Google will pivot. I think they're going to try and push forward on Pixel, and I kind of hope they do. I kind of hope they don't just cut and run again because they have a terrible reputation for killing off products. It'd be nice to see them just continue to iterate and refine. Let's see. Oh, Mr. Tech, Asus Zenfone. Zenfone could be a good competitor. Does Asus sells direct in the United States, right? It's not an import only. Like you can pick one up at B&H. Yeah? So yeah, that might be a good fit. The other one I was thinking of is you might be able to play off something like a Sony. But again, you take a Sony into a carrier store if you're having problems, and it's not very likely that anyone will be there who's ever seen one before. If you take a Pixel into T-Mobile, let's say no one even sells the Pixel. Let's say T-Mobile doesn't sell the Pixel. Let's say for some reason it stays a Verizon exclusive. If you take your Pixel into T-Mobile, chances are pretty good that someone there will still be able to help you out with stuff. Tech Rant, $399 for a Pixel is awesome. Remember how much the iPhone cost in 2008? From Guan to Juan, $3.99 doesn't get you a pixel. You get a sub-pixel. I mean, again, I disagree, but that's funny. That's really funny. Ronald Sims, yeah, the Zen phones are highly underrated. I think, what dominated Asus last year was ROG. But yeah, Zenfone, I need to look them up. I don't know what they're working on right now. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just sidetracked myself. Like, I'm curious. Like, I haven't played with the Zenfone since the Zenfone 3. Was it Zenfone 3 Pro? I don't remember. It's been a while. So, back on track. Thank you so much for the super chats. You guys are awesome. Excuse me. Let me click back over to my show notes here. We were just talking. I'm going to actually skip. Let me just say it real fast. I don't know if Viper is still watching, but Viper and I shared a perverse affection towards articles at Forbes being terrible, terrible clickbait. They were the progenitor. I don't think I've ever actually said that word out loud. For all of those articles about, Apple users have a nasty surprise with iOS update. And you can go through, if you like search for iPhone and nasty surprise, it's like Forbes articles. This is like their go-to headline for clickbait. So this is hilarious because Forbes said that they were going to cut back on the clickbait, but they didn't. So this is coming from Forbes, and Gordon Kelly, senior contributor at Forbes. Apple warned iPhones have a serious battery problem. Apple's controversial new iPhone 11 design is already taking flack, but now the company's current models have been hit by a much more immediate problem. Blah. Hold on, let me go back. Blah. I hope someone got a screenshot of that. So, Forbes articles on Apple are hilarious. I have so many criticisms of Apple as a company and how they do business. Forbes always blows up the dumbest things to try and make it seem like there's a huge controversy. Even in the beginning of this article, they're talking about the iPhone XS and XR and battery reporting. And they have to lead, Gordon has to lead with the iPhone 11's already taking flack. When actually the most recent sort of leaks and updates to the design, I think look pretty good. I don't see any crazy deal breakers here. If we're going to have square camera modules on a Huawei, and I think that looks pretty good because it looks like a rocket launcher, the same thing. I think the iPhone 11 is going to be fine. It's going to be fine. So when we're looking at this article, there is apparently some controversy. An independent group in the UK. It's a UK consumer advocacy group named Which ? Which with a question mark. They're similar to Consumer Reports in the US. They did their own independent testing of the iPhone XR, and their results were significantly different than Apple's estimated battery runtime. So they did a test on talk time, where they ran the phone for an extended period of time just for managing a phone call, and Apple claims 25 hours of talk time. They found that they could only keep their XR going for 16 and a half hours. And so that's a discrepancy, but it's also kind of like fuel economy in the United States. Oh, this car gets 30 miles to the gallon. BS it does. I feel like this is one of those things we're not really warning consumers off, right? We all know that, like, however long the battery can last in your pocket is totally different than the estimates of battery benchmarking or how they go about this kind of confirmation when they test the phone in a lab. And also, running the phone for 16 hours straight, I feel, would create battery thermal issues that would then more quickly degrade that talk time over the life of a single phone call, versus a more reasonable, like you get 25 hours of talk time. Apple doesn't say you get 25 hours of continuous talk time. I'm defending Apple on this podcast, but I feel like they're probably fairly accurate. You take a 20-minute phone call here, you take a 30-minute phone call there over, a full charge if you did nothing but just take phone calls I could see where you could get around 25 hours of talk time and you kept your screen usage to a minimum. But yeah, again, anyone let Viper know that there's another crazy anti-Apple article at Forbes, and I think he'll get a chuckle out of it. It's pretty funny. From Junkie with a super chat, does this buy me a PM'd link to a Nokia 9 camera review when it's ready? Junkie, we can talk. Maybe there's some way we can work out something with super chats too. If those of you who don't want to do business with Patreon, I completely appreciate that sentiment. Martin E., thanks for the content. Martin E. rocking an amazing picture as his profile pic of the, what is that? The Empire State Building. Thank you so much for the super chat. And Tech Rant, what are you doing, buddy? Tech Rant with a super chat. Why are we still using talk time as selling points in 2019? I want to see someone use the phone for 13 hours plus. I am terrible at battery benchmarking. I do so much with my phone screen off that I can't use screen on time as a reliable metric for how hard I hit a phone. Gary Fleshner, I want 25 hours of mobile Fortnite. Well, Gary, when I was on the Android Authority podcast, we had a lot to say about the Energizer phone with the 18,000 milliamp hour battery. Maybe that's what you need to start looking for. Okay, so we brought up OnePlus as or a mid-range offering. I didn't want to hit this too hard, but I did want to bring it up. Let me pull up this right here because I don't feel this is a good way to talk about the consumer expectations of the durability of your product. This went up a couple days ago. A note on smartphone IP ratings coming from OnePlus, and they produced this video. Hold on, let me just take a sip here. Excuse me. And this is from the OnePlus forums. Staff member Carl published this on forums.oneplus.com. Hey everyone, in case you missed it, we posted a beautifully made video on our social media earlier showing our OnePlus phone dropping into a bucket that is filled with water. I understand you may have some questions about this video, and I want to use this post to explain what this video means. I also hope it can address your concerns. At OnePlus, we always aim to do the right things based on what you really need, not the industry, especially when it comes to creating the best possible device. Over the past few years, we've seen so many comments from you on our phone's water resistance quality. In fact, we've never stopped improving our design and going through tests to make sure you can finally experience our water resistant quality. We know that an IP rating would be the simplest way to prove our phone's capability, but the certification doesn't help us communicate our focus on your real experience, which is why we created this direct and relatable video to show you what our water-resistant quality can actually bring to you in your real life in a more powerful way. However, this is not a bucket challenge, and we certainly don't want all of you to try to drop your OnePlus 7 Pro in a bucket, and just like other smartphone brands that do IP classify their devices, our warranty does not cover water damage. This also doesn't mean that we'll never consider IP classifying our products in the future. This is clumsy. Again, I have really come to respect OnePlus as a company that is growing up. But moves like this still show, I feel, that they've got some more room to grow. I think a lot of us are getting very anxious and very excited about what the OnePlus 7 Pro can bring. It's exciting to see a company try and move upscale rather than only making arguments about cost, the lowest possible cost, the lowest possible margins. There's something interesting happening where, in light of competition from Samsung and Apple, maybe a company can compete by moving up the food chain rather than always trying to undercut a competitor. There is an obvious problem in smartphone reviewing where you can lazily point to a number and then say winner or loser. I feel like the HTC 10 was unfairly maligned because it only had an IP53 certification. IP53 is generally splash and light rain resistant. But at the time, we were starting to get more phones with IP67, Well, IP67 is bigger than IP53, so why did HTC even bother? And that was generally the tone. I mean, if you go back to some of that content, some of that commentary, the HTC 10 was one of the best phones of its time. Severely underrated. It was a phenomenal phone. And the last like hard beveled metal edged phones, we went into the U series after that. The HTC 10 was gorgeous, and we lost something very unique when HTC walked away from what made them special. But IP53 wasn't a deal breaker. HTC certified their phones, got them IP rated, and properly disclosed to consumers what level of water resistance to expect. We should be demanding that of every smartphone manufacturer. But again, it wasn't the IP67, so it's not worth it for the monies. And now, if a phone company certifies their phones, they can use that as a marketing bullet point if it's IP67 or IP68. And if it's not, well, then they don't get their phone certified. So now the consumer has no idea. There is no classification. There's no resource. You don't know what your phone can handle. And again, light rain, splash resistant, that's about what most people need. You know, I know like your phone might take a dunk. You know, you might get pushed into a swimming pool. There are all these scenarios where having a fully submergible phone that can survive for half an hour underwater is desirable. But the general fears, like a quick dip in a toilet or, you know, splash in a urinal or, you know, someone spills a cocktail on your phone, that's like the daily driver fear of getting your phone wet. And IP53 is more than adequate for protecting you against that. We shouldn't be punishing companies for disclosing an IP certified rating, even if it's not the top tier. We should be demanding all consumer electronics have some type of IP rating. So I appreciate what OnePlus is trying to do here, that they're showing rather than telling. We're not just going to slap an IP label on there. We're going to show you that our phone can get dunked in a bucket of water. And that's fine. But I feel like it's the wrong reply. I feel it's the incorrect reply to a question that no one was really asking. In fact, this was the perfect time for them to point to things like, we're trying to innovate things with displays and a periscoping selfie camera, and we've worked to try and minimize any potential impact of water damage, but, you know, there are moving parts on this phone, and we're trying to make sure that, you know, that we're focused on durability and lifestyle product usage. Doing this to try and negate the certification process of IP labels just doesn't seem to work with the fact that they're claiming their phone can be submerged in water. Now would have been the time for them to say like, oh yeah, and this is a premium phone, and so this is an additional cost, and we need you to know why, you know, we haven't done this in the past and why we're looking at doing more of this in the future. I don't know. It just feels like the marketing and the PR are not in step with what like we're really asking for, of what's really happening in the smartphone space. So it's just kind of odd. I don't know. I might be overly sensitive to that kind of stuff. I wish more phones had drop-in shock ratings. You know, like, oh no, the back glass got cracked and all of the insides of my phone got liquefied. I'd like to see phones that even when the screen cracks, that you can it'll still be more likely you can get data off of that phone. From Waris Amir, OnePlus wants the marketing kudos, but without the responsibility. I totally appreciate there are costs associated with validating an IP68 rating and then also maintaining that level of production on a production line. Yeah, I don't know. I wish you put out a video like this when you decided to get your phone IP certified, not to try and convince your potential customers that you don't need to get IP certified. Again, it's just odd to me. From Croft, the Energizer phone didn't just bomb in crowdfunding, it cratered like a meteor. Like the brick it was. Let's see. James Vincent, HTC was trashed on too much. My Huawei P20 is only IP53. Yeah, I mean, like, what is it? I've got the Mate 20, and I think that's also IP53, and I feel fine with that. Like, that's fine to me. I can make an informed purchasing decision now knowing I'm good. Gary Fleshner, if my phone ends up in a urinal, that's an insurance claim. Maybe. I don't want to say like our phones are so mission critical that you couldn't, but ends up in a urinal and you can rinse it off and at least get it home so that you're able to call an Uber or something is different than like, oh, well, it's dead and covered in urine. Jeremy Vincent, I purchased the OnePlus 6T on April 26, knowing full well that the OnePlus 7 would launch in May. I have no buyer's remorse. I couldn't be happier, to be honest. I went back to that OnePlus 6, and it is still such a screamer. I mean, like, I'm holding it up next to a Galaxy S10 and an LG G8, and outside of a few, like, high-performance benchmarking situations like video rendering, UHD video rendering at 60 frames per second at a ridiculously high bit rate, they feel the same. Like daily use, pulling up apps, like launching services, they feel the same. I made the same critique of moving from the 845, but over the life of my 835s and comparing to my 845s, like you can point to some stutters or some performance issues, and I can't when I hold up a OnePlus 6 against a Galaxy S10. I'm sure I could scientifically measure lag or app loading times or problems, but on the whole, like the phone feels great, and I want more out of these upgrades, these yearly upgrades, than just like, oh, well, our Geekbench score got 20% higher. Like, that means nothing. That means absolutely nothing for improving the daily use of these devices. Let's see. And from Croft, I don't care about IP rating, especially since they're using it as a stupid excuse to not give us replaceable batteries. It's always possible to get a water and shock-proof case if you expect you need it to be waterproofed. I'd rather do that, but that's just me. And making the manufacturing more difficult, making the component replacement more difficult, I'm absolutely with you. Especially when I like knowing a durability rating, a drop in shock rating over water resistance. From using the LG V10. I put that phone through so much punishment, and it's still kicking, and it's still going strong. And those stainless steel rails don't have a mark on them, but all of the grippy, plasticky material is scratched to hell. But that phone has gone through 3 screen protectors, and the actual usage of the phone is pristine. The display is fine, the sides are fine. It's just the plastic got gouged pretty bad. I'd much rather know that in general lifestyle usage, if I'm juggling a toddler and trying to get a bag in the car and I'm trying to pull out my phone and it takes a bounce off a curb, that it's going to be more likely to survive that bounce than if I drop it in water, where a minor crack will defeat the water resistance rating, and then you're not protected against water damage. There isn't really a direct manufacturer warranty for water damage. From Paul Enriquez Gehring with a super chat. What's up, buddy? I just got done with a live commentary on Microsoft Build 2019. The build was mostly uninteresting. I'm not as good at covering developer news. So, like Apple's developer conference, Microsoft's developer conference, I'm not as deep into that scene. So I tend to pull back on trying to cover it really heavy because there's not a lot that I can add to that commentary as well. Yeah. So the last thing is we're getting to the last 20 minutes here, and I do want to talk about Google I/O because that's popping up tomorrow. There were just 2 other comments here that I want to do. From LeBaron Burton, I haven't seen any reviews of the difference between the ceramic S10 Plus compared to the normal S10 in a drop test. And I wouldn't trust any YouTuber in a drop test. When you see what manufacturers actually do to protect the durability on their phones, it's pretty intense. You're taking dozens and dozens and dozens of phones at a time and running each of them through very specific potential damage scenarios. So when you've got some Yahoo who's just walking out on his front like driveway and just like dropping the phone from ear height, it's so not scientific. It makes me cry. It's only gadget destruction porn. It has zero impact. It has zero relatability to what you might face, even under exceedingly similar situations. What I would want to see is an independent party who can buy like 20 Galaxy S10 ceramics and 20 regular Galaxy S10s and then run them through very controlled, like here's what it does on a corner drop, and here's what it does on a backdrop, and here's what it does with flex. So like you actually take fabric on pulleys and you flex it like it would be in your pocket. That's what I would want to see. And again, an independent party, you'd end up with a commercial, right? The only company who would want to do that would be someone who like sells smartphone insurance. And there are actually a bunch of videos where they also do things like test durability. But again, you're looking at a company that has a vested interest in you buying insurance from them with their durability reports. So I don't know who to trust. When I become a billionaire, I'll happily do that and then donate a substantial sum to charities and then get those things properly recycled. So just make me a billionaire and I'll give you scientifically designed durability tests. Don't make me a billionaire. Don't do that. From Paco. I still remember when Erica Griffin dunked the OG Moto G in soup to kill it. That nano coating was hyped to high heaven and Motorola was killing it with the X. But alas, it was not meant to be. Yeah. Again, and I wouldn't mess with Erica Griffin. She knows her stuff. I know she's going to be taking some time off, so I hope she gets rested because hers is another one of those voices where it's like, without her doing her display testing and her long-term reviewing, like I feel like tech reviews are duller for her not sharing her experiences with this stuff. And it's kind of a shame that I don't think she was really getting the love or the attention that she deserved on YouTube. So I'm staying subscribed with bell icon smashed for Erica Griffin. And hopefully she comes back fresh and comes back excited to talk about some stuff because I miss her videos. Let's wrap up. Google I/O, our last big talking point. I'm cribbing some notes. Like Android Authority has a pretty good write-up on some things that we might be looking to expect at Google I/O. Android Q, Google Stadia, the Pixel 3a, which I spent some time talking about, a Nest Hub, Android Automotive, and then potentially some surprises. So I think these are on point. I think we'll definitely get some news on Android Q. I think we'll certainly get another sort of update on what's going on with game streaming, Google Stadia, and then obviously the phones. If we don't see a Google Pixel 3a tomorrow at I/O, I'll eat my hat, but not on camera. Now, the other ones are kind of interesting. These are what I'll file under potential and surprises. So like Nest Hub, making IoT and home automation a little bit more easier and built on a Google protocol, a Google service, not just giving it up to like Bixby or something. Android Automotive could also be another potential interesting move. I really want to see more competition in the automotive markets, and especially for improving the ergonomics of incorporating data in our cars. Because right now, that's not in good shape. And we have way too many car manufacturers acting like, well, we put a giant tablet in your dashboard. That's all you need, which is garbage. So when it comes to surprises, what are you folks looking forward to? I spent a lot of time talking about Pixel 3a. I'm very excited for Pixel 3a for all the reasons that I mentioned before. I'm potentially excited for Android Q if Android Q can pull off a desktop mode. I really, really want that as just a standard part of the Android operating experience, is that you plug it into a monitor and you can now do work from your phone as if you were working at a computer. I think Google and Microsoft gave up a potential lead that could have rocked the home computing market, especially the laptop market. From the Qualcomm 820 to the 835, we've had processing power that rivals mid-range laptops. And I'm wrapping up my long-term review. I have to send it back, of the Huawei MateBook 13, the littler MateBook. And it's a great laptop, but my phones can outperform it for things like video recording. My phones can outperform it for things like video gaming. If I could just plug my phones into the exact same form factor as that MateBook 13, there are several situations where the phone would be more powerful than the MateBook. So John O'Shea with a super chat for the Billionaire Fund. You nerds, I love it. And LeBaron Burton also kicking in a super chat too. Thank you guys, I really appreciate that. So Android Q giving us more screen awareness, flexibility, desktop mode, laptop mode, stuff like that would be epic. I really feel like that would be a much bigger benefit to the consumer than any type of folding screen technology, is the ability to modularly move apps and services to different size displays. But the thing I'm hoping to see most of all would be a follow-up to things like AR. Like AR and VR services from Google have been somewhat maligned and sidelined. I pulled out my Daydream a little while ago, and I plopped in my LG G8. Man, I've got this Snapdragon 855, this great OLED screen. It's running a lot cooler than when we were on the 821. The performance is better. I really feel like we could get back to an Android-driven VR experience. Maybe not like you use your phone, but maybe it's powered off of a phone, or it's just a self-contained Android unit, kind of like what we're seeing from Oculus. You know, going with something that you can properly separate the experience, but it's self-contained and self-powered. It's really nice. I got to play Beat Saber. It's really nice having a self-contained VR headset that can run a game like Beat Saber and not have you tethered to a giant monster PC. That's pretty cool. I dig that. Google should be a part of that discussion, especially with Stadia and game streaming being sort of hot and buzzy right now. They're sort of the fad. Everyone trying to make the next Netflix, the first Netflix for games. I don't want VR to wither on the vine. I want them to show that they can come back to an idea and refine it and improve it. And the same thing with AR. Both Apple and Google have kind of slow played augmented reality, but Apple's still well ahead. The services that you can pick up and the games that you can pick up for AR on the iPhone are better than what Google, what you can get on Android, and it's a bummer. There's a Star Wars experience on the iPhone, and it's basically just a big commercial for Disney Star Wars. But, you hold up your phone, and you can play opposite someone like the silly little Star Wars checkers chess game that's on the Millennium Falcon. Just bloop on your table, and you move all the little characters around, and they fight each other and stuff, and you're like, that's so cool. And there's this wacky little game where you take your iPhone outside, and it draws a course in the yard in front of you, and you have to run that course as fast as you can, and then you compare your times to other people. And like, I want stuff like that, and I want to start incorporating more heads-up display, mapping, directions, because then once we move that off of the phone and we put it into a headset, or we put it into the windshield of our car, that's going to be huge. That's going to be a great perk, a great benefit, but we can't get there if Google just sort of dabbles for a little bit, and then, oh, well, that's hard, and people didn't immediately like our first gen, so we'll just walk away. It's just such a bummer. I want Google to have more fortitude. I want them to have more staying power. C. Butler with a super chat. Thank you very much for supporting production on this channel, C. Butler. I really appreciate it. But yeah, so that's my hopes for Google I/O. I want to see a smarter conversation about tech in the car. I want to see desktop mode come to Android Q with some conversation about what Google will do to encourage more phone manufacturers update their phones. Not, like, obviously, I'm going to pick on LG here because I love LG, but, they could be doing better. G7, Pi, I know it's hard. Pi is a performance hog. It doesn't mean you don't do it. It means you focus your resources on doing it well and communicating that experience with your customers. But across the board, I want to see faster and better updates from Samsung. I want to see faster and better updates from Motorola. I don't have any problems with OnePlus. They've been doing great. Android One phones, we should be seeing more of those, especially Android One phones at the high end. The Nokia, kind of nice. I like that. Let's do more of that. And then some conversation about Accessibility would be nice. That'll probably be covered not in the main keynote, but just throughout the whole Google I/O conference. But man, AR and VR, don't walk away. Don't lose the momentum on that. You kind of already have lost a lot of the momentum, but bring it back. Show us you can do something interesting there. Show us that you can improve that experience there. Get back to Daydream. Get back to Tango, or what is it, AR Core? I can't remember. Apple is AR Core and Google is AR Kit? Something like that. I don't know. But that would make me really excited to see during a Google I/O. So what do you guys want to see in Google I/O? And then last questions. We've got about 10 minutes here. We're going to wrap up this podcast. Let me get this back to here. From Gautam Dewan, Razer had a laptop concept for the desktop experience. I have fawned all over Project Linda on numerous occasions. But while Project Linda is cool, it is still the most criminal oversight from any company that Motorola didn't bring back the lap dock. You have a phone with magnetic pogo pins, Moto mods. Don't snap something onto the phone. Use the phone to snap into a laptop dock. I can't believe Motorola fumbled, never came out with a product like that. So we've got the Moto Z4 on the horizon. But if you had a Moto Z series with at least a Snapdragon 845 and these Moto mods, and you just snap it into the keyboard tray, and then there's a laptop dock that has a huge battery and recharges your phone, and you use the phone as the touchpad for the keyboard screen area, you'd have a 6-inch touchpad. It'd be great. Do that. It would have been the perfect companion piece for all of this new like modular and folding phones and all this other stuff. It makes me so frustrated that they never did that. And Fat Produce with Super Chats. What are you doing, Andrew? What's up, buddy? And Andrew and I will be doing a Geek Book Club soon. We both got a little off track. Andrew started a new job. I got booked on a bunch of weird projects that took up a lot of time, but we'll be coming back to talk about Island in the Sea of Time very soon on the Geek Book Club. So that will be coming back soon. Croft, I'm looking forward to Google releasing a new messenger app that is still not connected to SMS, MMS, or anything but itself, because as we know, everyone will use it anyway, right? Right? Well, I mean, at least for Google messaging, maybe a conversation about RCS. That you know, they killed Allo. They're working on Messenger. Google Voice got some fun updates, but swinging it back around. So instead of trying to make some iMessage-like service, they're trying to build it on a standardized protocol for RCS. That could be kind of cool. But again, Google needs to lead that discussion. Google can't just like, oh yeah, we're doing some other stuff. You know, like, no. They need to actually impress upon us why that's a benefit and why that's interesting. From Mauricio Gutierrez, Android One, LG G8 would be hot. Give me just like a couple little apps to install for better control over the camera and to properly support the quad DAC, and then just run screaming, lean, clean, stock Android, and that would make me so happy on the G8. But there's a lot that they would need to build in too, because like if you want that time of flight, the secure face unlock, I don't know that that's natively supported in Android. So they'd still have to carve up a lot of custom code. From Paco, Asus had cool transformer ideas ruined by Tegra SoCs and terrible flash storage. Yeah. Again, Asus had this idea right with the phone pad, or is it the pad phone? I can't remember. But it was like dockable. You took a phone and you slotted it into a tablet shell and you had a tablet. You took a tablet and you popped it into a keyboard and you had a laptop. You had all these really great convertible ideas. And then those kind of went away. And it's a shame because they just came too early when this stuff wasn't quite powerful enough to be a true laptop competitor. Now, there are numerous things I can point to on my phone that my phone does faster and better than a low to mid-range spec laptop. Paco, they killed Inbox. That was a punch below the belt. So yeah, I don't know. I am looking forward to Google I/O. I've never been to one. I've never really covered one outside of just like watching the keynotes. I don't think I'm going to do a concurrent stream with I/O, but I'll probably be tweeting, live tweeting if there are any major announcements. I really hope that we'll see some. I'm frustrated that techies have already written off the Pixel 3a. I'm hoping that we'll see some reasonable conversations and reasonable commentary on a phone that is not made for the elitist of elite Android consumers. I feel like way too many people are sort of left out of conversations about reasonable solutions for daily driver smartphones. And instead, we just try and push people towards, well, just spend $40 a month on leasing a Galaxy and you'll be fine. I want to see more competition, especially for North America, with reasonable for reasonable solutions. And John O'Shea, when will you go Twitch only live streaming my first podcast in June? Actually, let me pull up the calendar. The first actually, you know what? Just to be safe, I think the first podcast that I'll be back for will be June 10th. Because I still might be recovering from Computex on the 3rd. So why don't we safely say it might be June 3rd, but it'll probably be June 10th. And that'll be the first stream that goes primarily to Twitch. It's still going to be backed up on Mixer, Periscope, and Facebook. And then the podcast will come back here after it's finished, after it's finished live streaming. And then that's just the best place to wrap up. I had all kinds of housekeeping. Again, Mother's Day video on Newegg. I did the Relate Cast Tech Down Under, where I got to talk about earwax for a good 20 minutes. It wasn't 20 minutes. It was close to 20 minutes. The Nokia 9 PureView camera review is live on Patreon. So if you want a 26-minute deep dive into the cameras on the Nokia 9, you can check that out. And then catch the Android Authority podcast. If you have not gotten enough of me talking over the last 2 hours, you can get another hour of me talking with those guys over there. Actually, that was a great show. A really fun conversation. Adam, Joe, super gracious, and then let me kind of soapbox about how frustrated I've been by the YouTube popularity echo chamber. Again, if you want some dissenting viewpoints in your tech commentary, I really appreciated them letting me come on to chat about some phones that I felt deserved more love. All kinds of stuff happening over these next 2 weeks. Not this week, but the next week. I'm going to be doing another live broadcast at Newegg with Trisha Hirschberger. Got some videos coming out on the Newegg channel that I'm helping them produce right now. We did a 30-minute deep dive into the newest Aorus gaming monitor, which is a phenomenal piece of tech. And Matt from Aorus came on and just he blew me away. Because it was no fluff. He was like, yeah, we had some challenges here, but we also did this, and I thought that was the better solution. And you're like, oh, that was very candid. Normally you get a bit more marketing and PR spin well, the finer solution was what we chose to do, blah, blah. And he was like, nah, there's a problem over here, and I definitely would hope that in a future product we could do this. And you're like, wow, that was great. And then we've got a similar conversation coming out on the Super X-Fi headphones from Creative, where Ryan, I think it's Ryan Schleppinger? I can't pronounce his last name at all. Ryan is my favorite audio dude to nerd out with. And they let us talk for 20 minutes about Creative audio tech. I mean, we barely talked about the headphones. It was supposed to be a video about their new headphones, and we were all over the place. Well, let me tell you about vinyl. And so that's going to be coming to the Newegg channel soon, too. Lots of stuff. I've got videos. I've got reviews. There's going to be content on the Patreon. I've got an article that I'm writing for some gadget guy. I'm a busy dude, and this is real fun stuff. So thank you all so much for jumping in, for participating, supporting this production, but then also sharing these conversations. Getting out there and sharing content from your favorite producers, myself included, hopefully, but everyone. The folks in this live chat, from LFA to Viper to Board at Work, the Nitpicker, different voices in this conversation, different discussions to be had, different points of view. We're going to disagree a lot. But if we don't have a fairer spread of representation, if we don't have a fairer spread of different opinions, this stuff gets so dull. And it's dead. and I don't want it to die. I want it to do better. So again, thank you so much. And now it's time to wrap this up. Folks, you know where you can catch me on the next Monday morning Tech Chat show, the SGGQA podcast channel. Stay tuned for all the fun content, all the fun news, all the serious news, all of the controversial news. And in the meantime, if there's a hot tip, if there's a hot take, if you've got questions, comments, concerns, you absolutely know where you can reach out to me. I am at Some Gadget Guy around the web, on the Twitters, the Instagrams, the Facebooks, the Twitches. I don't know, maybe I should come up with like a podcast email too, for those of you that want to write something out a little long form. The Patreon is a Some Gadget Guy link also. I'm all over the place. And I'll catch you next week on the Monday Morning Tech Chat show. I want you to have a fantastic week, okay? That's a deal. I want to make this deal with you. There's going to be a quiz after next week that you had a fantastic week. You're recovering well from Cinco de Mayo, Battle of Puebla. I toasted some great tequila. I hope you did too. And I want you to do awesome with your technology. I want you to be awesome with your technology. Have a great week. I love y'all. Take care. See you next time.